Did anybody see this, by the way? This is what American media has resolved itself to. And this is why they're getting the answers from people like Jokic and LeBron and other athletes that they are getting. Legit.
Nikola, game 3, you had the dunk over Anthony Edwards. Tonight you drove, kind of put it behind your head. Where's that coming from? And is that a product of all of Minnesota's rim protection? Do you feel like you need to finish with more authority when you have the chance?
I mean, I had open lane, and it just, I'm a freak of nature, and why not to show my athleticism?
So here's the thing, Nikola. You're like really good at basketball and stuff, bro. And because you're so good at basketball and stuff, you were able to like dunk the ball. Why were you able to do that? Why were you able to dunk the ball, man? Because you're like really good at playing this game, dude. That's what he might as well have said. Just plain stupidity. Seriously. And I, for one, am just as aggravated listening to it as the other athletes are. By the way, anybody see that game last night? And I do want to talk about Rudy Gobert. What in the hell, man? Why was he fined $75K? So for anybody who doesn't know, there was a foul call on Rudy Gobert. It was a foul, right? A little bit of acting, but it definitely was a foul. And Rudy, instead of jawing with the officials and going over it and getting mad and doing whatever else, just did the little, when you take a deep breath and they decided that was a tech. And they decided that was worth a $75,000 fine. And you wonder why people are frustrated with the state of the NBA right now. You wonder why there's legitimate playoff games going on with half-empty arenas in the NBA right now. You wonder why the TV ratings aren't really there right now with the NBA, because everybody's damn sick and tired of it. Damn sick and tired. And I can appreciate where women are coming from right now with the women's game and the interest that it's caught. I can appreciate what Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Juju Watkins and a host of others are doing right now, which we're going to get into Caitlin Clark's debut a little bit later on the show. But it's got just as much to do with what's going on in men's basketball, in the absolute ridiculousness of it, as anything else. I'm not saying these women aren't putting in work. If you're listening for the first time, go look at my catalog. I don't have time to sit here and re-explain everything and go all over everything a millionth time. Just go back and listen to the catalog. That's all I'm going to tell you. What I am saying is there's just as much as that going on right now as there is with this other nonsense. $75K fine for just, I'm just going to calm myself down because I think that's a BS call. Because it was a BS thing to throw a tech right there. Now, it's not why he did it. But I'm going to tell you what, if I'm going to get a tech, I might as well make it worth my fucking time. I'd have done some extra stuff, man. Look, he's better than me. I'm going to tell you that right now. Brody is much better than me. Because if I'm going to do some extra stuff, I am damn sure going to make it worth my day. I'm telling you that right now. There's literally no excuse, no justification, no reason, nothing. You can't tell me that warranted any response like what he got. They're making the game unwatchable. And all this about we're going to go and we're going to review and we're going to try and allow more defense. Look, the Knicks Pacers were the definition of what defense should look like. I mean, that game was basketball. Regardless, I think it goes without saying that it's pretty stupid And I think we're all a little sick and damn tired of being sick and damn tired of the officiating and the fines and the everything else that's going on right now in the NBA. We're all just done. I don't understand what's making this product so unwatchable. Bro, really? That right there is the literal definition of what is going on in the NBA. You can't tell me that you seriously looked at that and went, well, man, that's just vulgar and violent. What's his problem? He did exactly what you want him to do, calm himself down. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. By the way, the Mavs won last night. For anybody wondering, 3 games in a row. If anybody thought Jokic was going to lay down and die like a dog, boy, did you have another thing coming. Another double-double for Jokic last night. Look, Denver has been there, and they have done that. And I can appreciate where everybody was coming from with Minnesota. There's nothing new to them right now. Okay, they gave up a couple of games. They readjusted. They went back to the drawing board. They figured out how to get done. But if you really thought that Murray and Jokic were just going to take it on the chin, you were sadly mistaken, Brody. I mean, legitimately, who in the hell really, truly believed that they didn't have it in them anymore? You know, this year's Nuggets really reminds me a lot of the Houston Rockets back in the mid-'90s when they won their back-to-back championships. That second year was not the best year that the Houston Rockets had had. That first year, pretty damn good. The second year, you go back and you look at their record, they weren't really that great. What were they, like what seed were they in the playoffs? Wasn't, 7 or something, if I remember right. Just kind of barely skated by, but they got the job done. This kind of gives me that same vibe. Now, I'm not saying that it's only going to be, these last couple of seasons and then that's it. Obviously, free agency is going to be coming up, but regardless, I think the commitment to winning is really different right now in Denver than it ever has been. This has been slowly building up for Jokic. They've got the right pieces to the puzzle. He's been getting better and better as a basketball player. And I'm not really sure why anybody thought that series was already over. I understand it was 2-0, but, man, it's not over until it's over. And it was bizarre to me that there were legitimately people out there who thought to themselves, Jokic ain't cutting the mustard right now. This is over. Look at what old boy's doing in Minnesota. This is over. Nah, bro. No. Now it's a fight for survival for Minnesota, which mentally they're going to have to get past everything. They played pretty good for about 2.5, 3 quarters, but Denver eventually took over that ball game. And they won decisively. And it's not uncommon for them to do this. Look, we're used to seeing Denver for about 2 quarters. Somebody will stick around. But I've always said the third quarter in the NBA is so much more important than people realize. The proof is in the pudding with the coaching, the halftime adjustments. You take over that third quarter. I mean, you go back and you look at some of the championships that the Golden State Warriors won. The first 2 quarters, they would just look pitiful. But, man, that third quarter, all of a sudden, the game would change in an instant. Something about that third quarter in the NBA. I'm going to have to check out some stats on that one day. But I really believe it is the most pivotal third quarter in basketball. Probably sounds silly, but I think if you were to go back and rewatch, especially this year in the playoffs, third quarters, you would see exactly what I'm talking about. Get outscored, somebody goes on a big 22-6 run or something of that nature. They start putting the game away. It gets later and later and later. You're tired. You're beat up. Regardless, Denver probably wins this one. I think they win 4 in a row, and I don't think it goes to a game 7. They'll be taking on the winner of OKC and Dallas, which Well, I got to tell you, if Oklahoma City keeps playing that type of defense, Luka's going to have to really toughen up, man. And I mean toughen up. Yeah. New York did that last night after basically getting dominated in 2 games back-to-back. Look, one of the things that I talked about a couple of nights ago, or a couple of days ago, I should say, on the program was, look, I'm not the biggest believer in New York. As long as the defense steps up and they can rebound, then they're going to be okay. Yeah, but I've also said it wouldn't be the first time that they let me down. I didn't think that they were going to continue to dominate the series. They didn't. They went back to Indiana. Pascal, he stepped up the way that I said he needed to. But then they went back to New York. Completely different ball game. Look, the Pacers were continuously trying to do full court press. And that's fine. Look, it worked for a little while, right? But eventually the Knicks began to adjust to it. They were setting a lot of screens. Guys were getting open down low. The Indiana really, it helped them in the beginning, but it actually ended up being part of what broke them in that basketball game. Knicks started doing very good with rotating around that thing. Caught guys slipping. You got behind them. They're all staring at the ball, trying to figure out where it's going to go next instead of getting on your man. You know, if you're going to put 3 up there like that, you've got to, who's ever in the backcourt there, who's ever doing that, you can't just watch the ball. Essentially, at that point, you're playing a zone defense combined with a full court press. You're letting guys get behind you, and New York just ate them up on the boards all night long. Hartenstein was phenomenal down low defense. He was clogging up lanes all night long. He was rebounding like a motherfucker. Brunson completely took over that basketball game. What do you have, 40-plus last night? By the way, they were doing all this without Julius Randle. I want everybody to keep that in mind. And the Knicks really were playing pretty much the consummate 90s style of basketball, which is what I continue to tell people that they're playing. They're really playing 1993 New York Knicks basketball. Physical down low. You got 1 or 2 guys that can put up some points, and you're hoping that they do it every single night. There's a lot of pressure on Brunson. And at the beginning of that game, I'm watching it, and I'm thinking to myself, he's doing a little too much here by himself. You know, I still think he needs a little more distribution to hearten him. And then when he started doing that, those guys were hitting shots. And once that trust was there, that was when the game really started to change. Because really for about the first quarter, basically, I felt like Indiana was dominating that game. But they didn't make any adjustments out of that full court press that they were doing. And it ended up hurting more than it ended up helping. I think at some point you got to make a coaching adjustment. I can appreciate sticking to your guns, but when you're down by that much, it's definitely time to make a change, compadre. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You know, and the Pacers, I mean, the way that they were playing defense really, to me, was like a March Madness collegiate style, right? Risk-reward. Let's just press them. Let's make it hard for them to get the ball over the court. We want about 17, 16 seconds left if they do happen to cross. We want to leave them with a minimal amount of time to set up their half-court offense, but Jalen's not afraid to pull the trigger. They're going to have to game plan something different, I'll tell you that much, going into Indiana, because I don't know how much longer that's going to work for them. Not to mention the turnovers. What they have, 15-plus last night, Indiana. You know, I think the thing that I've really loved about the New York Knicks over the last couple of seasons, and I've said this, is they really do play the team game of basketball. I mean, it really is a team effort. Everybody's got an assignment. It's old school basketball. There's a lot of rotation. Everybody's got an assignment. You're a true point guard. You're a true shooting guard. You're a true small forward. You're a true power forward. You're a true center. Here's what we need you to do. We need you to get in your roles, understand your assignment, and play out of it every now and again, but I don't want you to be doing too much. I want you to rely on the next man around you. Trust this process and what we're doing, and that's exactly what the Knicks are. And anytime they try to loop outside of that, they are not successful. That's when they have a hard time. Now, sometimes it mandates that you got to break your game plan and switch it up and do something different. But I've never really seen it work for the Knicks. Anytime that if you really watch the Knicks over the last couple of seasons, whether it's pre, reg, or post, this is what we get used to. This is who they are. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Does it suck being a one-trick pony? Yeah. But if the one trick works, then you're just going to have to stick with it. And not do a whole hell of a lot different. I'm sure there's some plays and things of that nature that you could throw in with half-court sets. But, you know, the Pacers, to me, when you start playing that type of defense and you realize it's not working, at that point you're just playing desperate basketball. And that was, to me, the situation between Turner and Devin Chaco. It was just, at that point, Indiana was getting desperate. They knew they were getting beat up. You know, they had got back into that point at one point, into the third quarter, but then, you know, New York just kept sticking with it, kept doing what they were doing. They stayed patient. They understand who they are. When they play within that, there's not much better in the NBA. And what more do you need? Solid defense, fantastic rebounding, force some turnovers, create situations to where they make their own mistakes and beat themselves. I still think without Randall going forward, it's going to be complicated. Depending on what really happens with Randall, it's going to be tough. If they've got to see Boston, every game has to be perfect defensively. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I can appreciate what Brunson has been doing so far in this postseason, but I just don't know how long it's sustainable. I'm not saying he's selfish, because he's not. What I am saying is there's got to be a little bit more trust there. I know Hartenstein, and all these other guys, you know, they're not necessarily, you know, put up 40 a night if they've got to. Simultaneously, if you want to close this thing out and you're going to be in Indiana, you are going to have to trust other guys. You know, they were phenomenal in the paint. I think at one point in that game, you know, 30 plus, if I remember right, down low. There's nothing wrong with wearing the other team down. I mean, physically, they were better prepared. So we'll see what happens here in a couple of nights. But regardless, the Knicks were impressive, and they were impressive because they were who they are. You know, Tom Thibodeau, I don't know what happens sometimes with these coaches. They just start overthinking stuff, man. Just let them be. Real quick, I guess we'll touch on this. Yeah, Tom Brady says he regrets doing the roast, you know, mainly for his kids. Look, I can appreciate how he feels. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, they shouldn't let him watch the roast. Bro, have you ever heard of social media? Well, it's a parent's job. Have you ever heard of your friend's cell phone? You know, as a parent, you can only do so much, man. At some point, you got to let those kids out, start making their own choices. They're going to see things. They're going to hear things. People's parents are going to talk. They're going to talk. The kids are going to hear them talk. And then the kids are going to bring it back to the other kids. The other kids are going to talk to the other kids. Eventually, it's going to work its way around. simultaneously, how could Tom not know what he was getting himself into? And I understand that he called it a learning lesson as a parenting moment, but, I don't know if it's to satisfy people, if it's how it really feels. Sometimes people do things in the moment and, they regret it later. It is what it is. If he feels like he shouldn't have done it, then he feels like he shouldn't have done it. I'm not here to chastise him for it. I personally don't think he did anything wrong, but then again, I'm not him. So who am I to judge how he's feeling today versus yesterday? I think it's really that simple. And I think we overcomplicate things sometimes. And this is one of those to where it's that simple. And I know a lot of people are going to look at this and go, damn, man, Gisele's really got him by the balls. I think she just maybe wants what's best for her kids. Maybe she felt embarrassed. After all, it wasn't her choice to do this. Who knows? I'm not going to sit around and point fingers at anybody. Everybody partook. I damn sure watched it. Some of the jokes I thought were hilarious. Some of them I didn't find funny, but it's not necessarily that I was offended by them. It's just sometimes it's not funny. That ain't funny. Honestly, my favorite part was the Ron Burgundy thing. That was pretty good. So, did you see the new promo for the new WNBA expansion team? I mean, it was... Honestly, bro, it was like... I wasn't like mind blown when I saw it. I wasn't mind blown. Here's a listen real quick.
Born from the Bay, gilded in gold. This is where legends take flight. Our story has yet to be written.
So there you have it. The Golden State Valkyries. Which, look, here's the thing, okay? It's not the worst promo that they could have come up with, but the production value really wasn't all that tremendous, which obviously the WNBA is still on the come up. I mean, they're just now starting to get chartered flights. They're finally selling out arenas. They're adding a new team, right, coming up in, 2026? So, for me, when I was watching that, I just thought, that's a little cheesy superhero thing going on, right? It's kind of like a half-produced Marvel movie, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, that's legitimately what it reminds me of. And I'm just sitting there watching it, and I'm like, ugh. If they just would have, because it was quite, obvious that one of them standing at the end was the owner with the sword and all that and little Valkyrie wings and everything. It's a cool concept. Don't get me wrong. The name of the team I don't think is really that bad. It's definitely better than like Commanders or, XFL Sea Dragons, for Pete's sake. So that I didn't take issue with. I'm cool with the colors. Colors are dope. I'm ready to see the uniforms. But I just, the promo, everybody's standing, looking up, pointing up to the sky like it's Superman or something. Like, okay, we've done this already. Let's figure out new things, I guess. Everything is just so rinse and repeated anymore. There's not a lot of originality out there, really, with anything. And I understand there's only so much you can do in a world that is everything is an oversaturated market. Everything is. Sports, food, reality shows, everything. It's all completely oversaturated, every bit of it. 24-hour-a-day programming to me is not necessarily a good thing. I'm just going to keep it a buck. But I digress. I think the overall concept is cool. The logo wasn't bad either. I was cool with the logo. Like, literally, I was good with everything except for that promo. Like, I was just kind of like, it's not really mind-blowing, And even then, the voiceover was cool. I guess you really just kind of have to watch it to understand what I'm talking about. Because if you haven't seen it, then you don't know what I mean when I say cheesy Marvel movie. Because that's exactly what it looked like. It was like Wonder Woman, but like 1/10. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Speaking of WNBA, Caitlin Clark, she made her debut last night. She got boxed up. And there's not too many things to really say about it. But look, if you really actually watch that game, here's something that you'll definitely know. She's got the sidestep. There's no debating that. And she gave herself some open looks. She just wasn't able to hit it. I mean, that was pretty simple. I think in this situation, just like with anything else, it's relax. Okay, it's one damn game. I don't know why everybody expects rookies to come out and blow 35-45 down the hatch. This is not... There's going to be some sort of transition. I don't know where this immediate ready thing came from. I have no idea who decided that somebody needs to be the best that they've ever been at anything ever at their age. Anybody who's anybody knows that sometimes as you get older, you get better at things, man. She is going to need a little bit of time to develop. I'm not saying the tools and the skills aren't already there, but it is one damn game. I mean, geez, man. And I talk about this stuff in the NFL all the time. I talk about it in the NBA all the time. I don't get the level expectation that we have anymore with athletes and with coaches. Nobody's given a significant time frame for anything. And a lot of that I do blame us in the media for, because we have a tendency to under or overhype somebody, and people listen to our opinions. They see everything that's going on. It's constantly shoved down their throats. And then when the time comes and they actually get a chance to catch a glimpse of what somebody's, playing like, they're going, dude, what the hell, man? You put this hype machine behind this person. You swore up and down about how great they were, and then this is the result. Well, it's one game. I'm never really the type to put a lot of hype behind anybody. Or someone's going to go, dude, you keep saying Jane Daniels, and I do. But I also think Jane Daniels is in a horrific situation in Washington. I mean, the best situation that happened in the NFL draft was Michael Penix Jr. You couldn't ask for a better situation for him. No pressure. Gets to hang out for potentially a couple of years. Learn how to be in an NFL locker room. Learn an NFL playbook. Learn how to be a pro athlete. There are a lot of significant differences from the college ranks to the NFL ranks about how guys conduct themselves in locker rooms, about how they expect everybody else to be, the work ethic, the gym time. Everything changes. There's no more excuse of, well, I got to be in class. No, you don't. Your ass is going to be in that film room. Your ass is going to be in that gym. Your ass is going to be over there working with the 7-on-7. Seriously. There's going to be a transition period. I think Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Juju and everybody else, they've got the tools. It's just going to take a little while for them to put it together. I just don't get basing anything off of one game. Even if Caitlin Clark would have came out and dropped 50, I'd have been like, look, it's one game. One. All right? She's a rook. Let it go. Chill out. Everybody, talking this nonsense gets old after a while, man. Seriously. Let's peel back, lighten up the reins. It's one game. One. It was like, what'll be great is if we torch the hell out of Chip Kelly, Brody. Legit, here's what happened.
What up? Jay Peters, what's the first thing that come to your mind when you hear Chip Kelly?
Bullshit ass guy, man.
BJ,
What up, man?
what's the first thing that come to your mind when you think about Chip Kelly, bro?
You know, he was very selfish. Didn't want to give up too much power in the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
What's the first thing you think of Chip Kelly when you hear that name, bro?
trash.
For the record, that last one was Jeremy Maclin. Jeremy Maclin, Julius Peppers, Jason Peters, Brandon Graham. They all just were 100% like, to hell with that dude. Look, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but coaching in college and coaching in the pros are two different things. And everybody in the pros gets paid, man. Especially during the time that Chip Kelly was coaching at Oregon, you know, all the violations and everything that he had. Well, allegedly. Look, Chip Kelly deserves a little bit of credit because what he started was a spread offense that was really a smash mouth style of play. And it evolved into what we see now. Literally damn near everybody's running it. Everybody's running some sort of variation. You know, the pistol started at Syracuse. He took the pistol and took it a step further. It's copycat league. Eventually everybody starts doing everything that they're doing. I'm not saying that he wasn't a good coach, but there's a reason why he's not at UCLA anymore. He really just had that couple of years, and that was it. Everybody was so geeked up on him. Yeah, look, when they played against teams that weren't very good, sure, it worked. Yeah, I mean, I remember pretty vividly Mike Vick saying something to the effect of, after the first half, he felt like he just played a whole game of football. He was done. Because of that style of offense that he runs, and everything is about pushing. Now, look, honestly, prime Mike Vick probably could have done it. But the point of what I'm saying is there's just levels to doing things. He was not successful in Philly. Wasn't successful in Frisco. Didn't do anything at UCLA. Other than those 2 or 3 years at Oregon, what has Chip Kelly really got on his resume? Really, when you think about it. You could say whatever you want to about that bowl game against Auburn. You could talk about some of the bad calls that were in that game, and I would concede to that. But that's literally not what we are discussing here. It all, as a matter of fact. We're talking about one thing and one thing only, and that's whether or not Chip Kelly has the ability to win consistently. I mean, come on, man. He had DTR. I said right out of the gate, I was like, man, I thought DTR was a little overrated maybe in college, but I saw him in Cleveland, and I thought Deshaun Watson's got to watch his job. DTR ain't messing around. You know, earlier I talked about one-trick pony. When that one trick doesn't work, you are screwed. But you have to stick with it, right? So is Chip Kelly going to change his one trick or what? It's asking for a friend. For myself. I'm really curious. Whew. 10 seasons as a college head coach, 81-41. Not great, but it ain't terrible. By the way, in the NFL, he was 28-35. He was 0-1 in the playoffs. Could you do worse than Chip Kelly? Probably, but could you do better than Jim Kelly? Yeah. I mean, he's just back to being a coordinator now at Ohio State, so. And 46-7 isn't bad at UCLA, but couldn't win any important games. I mean, that's the problem. You have to win important games. You ain't done that. Beat up on an overrated Kansas State football team. And even then, that really just fell apart in the second half. So there's that. All right, everybody. I am Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. I am brought to you in part by WBFR Block 50 Radio, which is online 24/7, 365 at block50radio.com. Your local programming is next. Don't you dare touch that dial.